Many people feel stuck in the same thoughts, feelings, and actions, and because of that, they seem to make a little bit of change, but they always fall back to their old patterns. What that does is that keeps them in the old reality. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 things you can do to create a quantum shift into a whole new version of yourself, a whole new version of your identity that will completely transform your life so that you stop staying in the same thoughts, feelings, and actions over and over and over again. Now, the first way to shift and to quantum shift your identity is something that I learned back in 2012. So back in 2012, I learned that I had a certain self-image about myself and that my thoughts, my actions, and my feelings were all equal to it. It was a book that I read called Psycho-Cybernetics. And basically, it was understanding that the self-image we have, the inner self-image we have, unless we change the inner self-image, the external, we will continue to stay in the energy of our old self and therefore get the same reflection. And at that moment, I was working that 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, and I saw myself as a mediocre sales employee, and I saw that I was a mediocre sales employee because that's how I saw myself. So what I eventually did is I started to see myself, and I started to literally just made a decision that my new identity is me being the version of myself that was a top salesperson. So I began to mirror that version of myself's body language. I began to greet people in the way that that version of me would greet people. I began to embody a new level of me by simply giving myself permission to be that version of me. I ended up applying that same philosophy and that same dynamic to that of when I was 2017 going full-time on YouTube. I realized, well, I see myself as a full-time sales employee, and I want to see myself as a YouTuber. So how do I create the bridge from my old identity to my new identity? And what I had to do is I had to make a momentary choice about myself, about who I am, and I had to give myself permission to be it. Now, what will always happen normally is the old self will come in place and start giving you a whole bunch of reasons why that's not you. Your family, your friends don't think you're that. It'll give you this idealization of perfectionism. You have to be perfect, which then will stop you from taking action. It'll procrastinate, say just do it later. For like 5 years, I knew I wanted to be on YouTube, but I didn't do it because I was waiting. I was waiting for the right opportunity. I was waiting for someone to put me on. I was waiting, and I waited for so many years. I was waiting until I learned how to edit, which I wasn't learning online how to edit. I just thought maybe one day I was going to just know. It was an interesting perspective, but basically I had to get rid and look at the old self and realize that all the old self wanted to do was to keep me the same. All my old self wanted to do was to keep me in familiar territory. So where in your life right now may you be able to see that your old self is trying to keep you where you are? And what if by acknowledging that, you can then in a moment make a new choice about who you are and simply choose to embody it? Now, embodying it doesn't mean just thinking about it. Doesn't mean even just feeling it. It means thinking, feeling, and acting. Which, think about it. You got thinking, you got the mind. You got feeling, which is kind of like the body. And then you got which is the body, and then action is also body. But it's like you're unifying these 3 sectors of your energy because it makes up your vibration. And any one of you could simply decide and give yourself permission to be this new version of you. You just have to let go of the old story. The old story that says that this is who I am. Because it's just a story that's been on autopilot that's felt very familiar and comfortable. Every moment you're shifting. Every moment you're shifting, and you can make a new choice that this is who I am, but you have to give yourself permission. That's all I did. The only difference between where I am and maybe other people that want to create their dream life is I gave myself permission to be this ideal identity, this ideal version of myself. And as I gave myself permission, that's when things began to change. It's almost like, people feel what you feel. And when you start following your heart, people will feel that, and it just has a different energy to it. But if we're in our heads about it and we're overanalyzing everything, then people will feel that off of us too. So to make the quantum shift in your identity, you have to just decide that this is who you are now and choose to embody it, knowing that at first it might feel a little bit weird, but it gets easier and easier as you go. When I started making daily videos, it was kind of weird to making videos, and I was awkward, and you can look at my first videos on YouTube to see. But then it got easier and easier and easier. And then people would say, how do you make daily videos on YouTube? And I would say, it's just a part of who I am. It's just who I am. And that was it. That was how easy it became to be. Now, the second thing you can do to quantum shift your reality is to become utterly aware of the story you are telling yourself about who you are and why you are where you are. So more so than just changing your identity, you want to become aware of your core story. Every one of us has a core story that's on autopilot. And our core story is simply there because it maybe came from childhood, but realize that your story is your beliefs about who you are. And we all have a story. We have a story about love. We have a story about money. We have a story about our career. And until we become aware of that story, it will be on autopilot. It's almost like you're watching a movie. And you know there's a certain part of the movie where the lead character normally just makes a new choice about him or herself. And then they end up becoming like this new timeline, or they reframe things. What I encourage you to do is to look at your current story knowing that it is not an end result. You can change your story. I used to have what is called ADHD. I was told I did. I had a lot of energy. People would always ask me, what's wrong with you? And I felt a lot of shame for that. I eventually decided that to me, I reframed it. I said I have a lot of energy. And as I started being this new energy of having a lot of energy and grounding myself in grass, finding other ways to moderate that, everything changed. The shame went away. I can't say this because I'm not a doctor, but for myself, I don't consider myself having it anymore. And there's many times where there's people that change their story. They change their definition of what things mean. It's interesting too. If you look at your past, in your past, you may have had some crazy thing that happened. Maybe some crazy trauma or something like that. And you could look at that and it could be the worst thing that ever happened to you. When I look at my own trauma with the ex-stepmom situation, and I broke out of that box, basically that has fueled me to be doing what I'm doing today. So I've changed the meaning of it, but also I've seen the benefit of it. It changed my story. Instead of it meaning I'm not worthy because someone is trying to control me, I could see how that propelled me into a spiritual awakening. My friend Matt, for example, he as a kid was not sheltered, but more so just kind of socially awkward in a way where he didn't have any friends in school. He would his biggest worry was what table am I going to sit at lunch? Because he knew that no one really accepted him. He didn't really fit in. He'd go and read books. That was his escape. But now what he does is he helps people with communication and connection. He helps people connect. He's like a relationship coach. So that actually, trauma fueled him to be mastering what he's doing today because of his unmet needs when he was in high school. So it's interesting because a lot of the most traumatic things that have ever happened to you, you'll find, can be the biggest gifts if you see it that way. So that's the second one that really changes, is when you begin to apply that and you reframe meaning, because nothing in life has any meaning other than the meaning you give it. Now, the third thing that can help you instantly shift to a completely new version of yourself is something that many of you may have heard of. It's called meditation. What meditation allows us to do, it allows us to get into a neutral state of consciousness where it's almost like we can be the old identity and think, feel, and act that way, and that's all on autopilot. But then what can happen is we can meditate and we can neutralize that. And through the neutralization of that identity, we can then bridge and become the most authentic version of ourselves. This isn't really about becoming a new identity even. It's about unleashing the authenticity and expanding your heart, because your heart is also connected to your dream reality. But meditation, I know that, not only because I have a YouTube channel with like meditations, I have one meditation, this meditation will shift you to a parallel reality. And I remember when I made that meditation, I had no idea that I'd have like 1 million views. And hundreds, if not thousands of comments of people saying that they shifted to a new reality. They feel like completely new versions of themselves. And it didn't really hit me until I spoke at my buddy's retreat like 2-3 years ago in Sedona. And a woman came up to me that was in crutches that was told she would never walk again. She would never get out of a wheelchair. And she had some type of, I think it was some type of like spinal disease or something, where she just was told you're never going to walk again. And she chose not to believe it. She did that meditation, and she said that from that meditation, it was actually a meditation that said, walk into a parallel reality like this. And it was like a version of that shift to a parallel reality meditation, which is funny because, or interesting, because she was told she'd never walk again. Well, she did that meditation, and she said that within days, she started being able to use crutches, something the doctor said she would never be able to do. And I remember her telling me the story, and it was hard for me to believe. I'm like, really? Like a meditation did that? And it was the purpose of the meditation was to help people instantly shift, but like, this works at a level that goes maybe against what maybe doctors can tell you. I'm not a doctor, I'm not telling you not to do what they say or anything, but I'm just saying that like, it bends the idea of physics and what reality is and what is potential, what is like capable for us. So this woman that is able to now walk on crutches, who was told she'd never be able to walk again or get out of a wheelchair, is able to do so because of a meditation. And there are many people that have done that shift into reality meditation, parallel reality meditation, that say they've attracted love, they've attracted all these different things. So it's very fascinating to me. But the reason I share that to you is because meditation has the ability to change our subconscious beliefs about who we are. And when we change our subconscious beliefs about who we are and what is possible, it then changes our outer reality, because remember, our outer reality is simply a reflection of what we believe to be true. Our stories about who we are, our beliefs about who we are on autopilot. And if we can penetrate the subconscious mind, that changes everything. So realize that your identity is flexible. Your reality is flexible. You can create a quantum shift by making a new choice about who you are. By connecting also to a high vibe family of people that that understand you, that can hold you accountable. And that as you do like meditation and you shift and you change your story about who you are, everything in your life will begin to change. Now there is something that is coming up soon. It is called the Shift Experience on May 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. There's both virtual options and live in-person options. You can go to theshiftexperience.com. Now is one of the last chances to join. I think we may be sold out of in-person tickets by the time this video goes out, but also there's the virtual option to buy. You're going to be doing exactly that, shifting to this new identity, shifting to a new reality, connecting to a high vibe tribe, using the power of group energy, and it's going to be super powerful. So I can't wait for that. Also, if you want to listen to that meditation for shifting to a parallel reality instantly, it's one of my most powerful ones. Listen to this meditation for the next 21 days and watch what happens. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a meditation that will shift you to a parallel reality. I'm going to share with you some ideas in the beginning that can help wire this in, so that when you go into this meditation that I guide you through in a couple